This is an extract from the Leader Coronavirus Daily podcast by the Evening Standard and hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for it on your podcast provider. The UK's track and trace app is supposed to become a major part of the country's efforts to control coronavirus. People download it and it tells them if they've come into contact with someone showing symptoms of the disease. They'll then be contacted and told to self-isolate. It's meant to be up and running around, now. But when asked about it by Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's Questions today, Boris Johnson said,
"We have a growing confidence that we will have a test, track and trace operation that will be world-beating, and yes, it will be in place. It will be in place by June the 1st.
June the 1st isn't now, and growing confidence isn't a definite. Our editorial column agrees if the system's not working, it should be delayed. But something has to happen.
Britain fell behind many other countries in controlling deaths and infection, not because our scientific advice was less good, our researchers are as good as anywhere on the planet, but because the government machine did not get its response to the science right. It took political leadership from the likes of Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, to push for a better testing system against dysfunctional official structures. But even now, test results can be slow, and we seem far behind some other countries in introducing a way of tracing and tracking people who have come into contact with infection. The app we were told could help this month is still being developed. Teams of tracers have only just been employed. It's right not to rush out an app that doesn't work well, but if ministers are listening to science, and the scientists say we need a system of testing, tracking and tracing before lifting lockdown further, the pressure on government to explain why we haven't got one yet, when others have, will only grow.
The app's being trialled on the Isle of Wight, where around 60,000 people have downloaded it from a population of 140,000. One of them is artist Richard May, who joins me over Zoom. Richard, how's it working for you?
Well, it was launched on at the beginning of the week with healthcare professionals, key workers. And then all residents got a letter through the post on Thursday, read the letter, downloaded the app. So it's quite straightforward.
So you fire it up, put your details in, and then what happens? What does it look like?
So it's on, I can show you, it's on my phone. There it is up in the corner. You tap on it and it opens up and it gives you some advice. And it says, are you feeling well today? And if you're not, if you're feeling fine, which fortunately I am, you don't need to do anything. It just sits on your phone. And nothing happens. So you walk around and it doesn't buzz, it doesn't ping, it doesn't give you an electric shock. Nothing goes on until I guess you need to be informed.
And so far, so good for you.
So far, yeah. My fingers are crossed.
What about other people that you know? Have they downloaded it too? Because it needs a lot of people to work. It's about 60% of the population needs to download it. Has it got that kind of uptake?
Well, I mean, I don't, because we're socially distanced. I haven't really bumped into many friends and acquaintances. Of those people I have spoken to, I'd say about half of them have downloaded it. Some with reservations over privacy, and some haven't. Because of those concerns.
Those privacy concerns are what a lot of people have been talking about. There have been some human rights groups who have raised worries about what governments are doing with the data, not just in the UK, but around the world, that are going into these apps and whether third parties can get control of them. How alarmed were you, or how worried were you about privacy, and how have those concerns been allayed for you?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure they have been allayed really, because we're working on the version of the app that was launched, and I downloaded it at the beginning, so it won't have been updated really. I mean, my concerns are the concerns of most people that data may be. I mean, the data that goes into the app is very minimal actually. So they have my phone number obviously, but they don't really have very much else. But my concerns would be along the lines of using that information for something that I haven't agreed with, communicating me about, I don't know, do we want to leave the EU? That kind of stuff. So it's I'm not quite secure about that. But on balance, I think that I would want to know if I'd been in contact with someone who had symptoms, and this might be a way of doing it.
Is it reassuring just to have it then, even though it's not doing anything? Is there a reassurance in a no news is good news type of way?
There's a little thing on the app that says it's working properly. So, and that's reassuring, I suppose. But I mean, in the news today, it said, well, there are things that aren't quite right with it. It's going to have to be retested and delayed. So I don't know. But my guess is the app may well have things that need to be refined and got right before it's launched nationwide. But they wouldn't know that. And I guess if you're going to get COVID-19, you're going to get COVID-19 to an extent, and the app will give you some kind of warning about that. But in terms, it's a balance of risk. Is the risk of your privacy being breached greater than the risk of catching COVID-19? And I don't know.
Is it interesting being part of a test like this? And do you understand why the Isle of Wight was selected for it at all?
Well, I mean, the Isle of Wight it never makes news headlines normally. I mean, it's a kind of offshore part of the United Kingdom. So it was a strange feeling to be asked to do something. I mean, I completely get the demographics because we don't come and go. We're pretty much a closed community at the moment. So it did make sense to ask us, and if we can help to get it right for the rest of the UK, then probably we should do that. My phone hasn't buzzed to say that I've been in contact with anyone with symptoms. So until that happens, I don't know whether it works or not.
Search for the Leader Coronavirus Daily on any podcast provider to hear more from the podcast.